Politics today and why it matters. 1. The greatest cause of war today. The evening news is littered with scenes about the impact of global warming, wars, conflict. Whether you are living in the country doing the bombing or getting bombed, perhaps you think the problems of the world are too complicated or large to comprehend, much less do anything about. If you are in the country getting bombed, you may suffer in silence. If you live in the country doing the bombing, you may want to oppose it, but are unsure how. You may also be struggling with your own country's government. While the world is indeed large and complex, we need not be paralyzed into inaction. Crucial elements of it are not beyond our comprehension, and if we study the course of history, it is apparent that changing the world is also not beyond our power. As U.S. historian Howard Zinn states, the world changes as a result of millions of tiny acts. Perhaps we can change the world when we direct those countless tiny acts in a direction. To find our way, we need to engage, dig deeper, share, and connect. So buckle your seatbelts. Let's get started. What force has been the greatest cause of war from the middle of the 20th century to today? Most of us have a vague sense that the US has a large footprint on world affairs. In the news, we hear or read about securing overseas interests, protecting national interests, promoting democracy, global security, and projecting power. But what does this all mean? How do these terms help us understand the nature and purpose of U.S. might? More importantly, what do they say about our place in the world, whether we are living in the United States or outside of it? Let's start with a few facts about the wide reach of the U.S. military. The U.S. spends more on defense than the next 10 countries combined. In 2008, that was 24 cents of every taxpayer's dollar, and more than 50% of discretionary spending dedicated to the U.S. military. If you are a tax-paying American, you might be wondering, where does all this money go? First, as anthropologist David Vine explains in Base Nation, the U.S. has a network of 800 military bases in 70 countries around the world. To get a sense of scale, Britain, France, and Russia have 30 foreign bases combined. China has none. The U.S. has 11 aircraft carriers for their jets. But why are aircraft carriers important? Well, as the U.S. Navy's webpage on Why the Carriers states, aircraft carriers are sovereign U.S. territory that steam anywhere in international waters, and most of the surface of the globe is water. In other words, aircraft carriers allow the United States to legally park its fighter jets a short distance from anywhere in the world, giving the U.S. the ability to drop bombs around the world at a moment's notice. As U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt used to say, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Or, as Bill Clinton's Defense Secretary William Cohen liked to state, if you have less of a forward deployed presence, you have less of a voice, less of an influence. Just like collateral damage is a euphemism to cover up the death of innocent bystanders, forward deployed presence just means having your military parked all over the world. If aircraft carriers provide the U.S. greater voice and influence, how much voice and influence do other big powers have? China has 2 aircraft carriers. Russia has 1. Even if China were to build a few more in the coming years, it is still dwarfed by the U.S.'s current arsenal that will keep growing in number and size. Now that we have a better idea of the nature of U.S. global military presence and might, our next question should be, why? To answer this question, we have to go to the end of World War II. See you in our next video, and make sure to subscribe.